One of my favorite Facebook group pages is called 100% Scream Fans. And in that group, this was a commonly asked question is, which Ghostface reveal do you think was the most shocking? Which one was the least shocking? And I kind of add in my own little thing here, which is which ones were kind of in the middle. It's like it didn't really shock you that much, but at the same time, it just kind of was, I'm not surprised by it, but I also couldn't guess this. So considering that I am a huge fan of the Scream franchise, let me go through the list of all the ghost faces, who they are, which ones surprised me, which ones didn't. And so I'm going to talk about for the 6 movies as well as the TV show. Now, matter of fact, I'm going to get the TV show out the way. I know most Scream fans prefer the movies more, but I think the show was incredibly underrated, underappreciated, and there was no reason for the viewership to drop the way that it did. But at least they ended on a good note. There was no cliffhanger, unlike other shows that we mentioned in here. So, and keep in mind, there is a spoiler alert here. There's a little bit of a spoiler here. So if you didn't see it, then I suggest you stop watching this video. But you can still like and subscribe. But unless you just don't care about the spoiler, I'm going to talk about it anyway. So in the first season, there's 3 seasons. Each season had one ghost face. Now, in the first season, it turns out that the ghost face killer was Piper. And I got to say, that one ended up surprising me for 2 major reasons. One, it turns out that she was the half-sister of the main character, Emma Duval. They share the same mother, but different fathers. And in the second season, the killer was Kieran, who was the boyfriend of Emma. Now, I got to say, his didn't really surprise me. There's a part of me that kind of saw that coming because of the way that the teacher, Miss Lang, kind of reacted to, seeing him when she woke up in the hospital. Of course, a lot of you saw that. You remember how that went down. You would think that she was screaming because she was looking at Emma, but there's a part of me that thought, well, maybe it wasn't Emma. Maybe she was looking at Kieran. So that tells me right there. Now, how she knew that he was the killer at the time, I don't know. The only way that I can draw a conclusion out of that is to say, like, hey, maybe he was dumb enough to stab her at a point where he wasn't wearing the mask or something. I don't know. It was shown off screen. I'm sorry. That's not the right way to say that. Apparently, it took place off screen. Obviously, it's not shown to the audience. But, and the killer in the third season, was Beth. And I have to say, that one was a little bit surprising, but not much. I'm looking at that and I said, I should have guessed that it was her because of the way she was acting and how dark and unemotional and just how detached she was from human empathy and human sympathy. So that didn't, in retrospect, it didn't surprise me. I guess in the moment, it kind of did a little bit. Now, and by the way, I'm pretty sure I got that right as far as Piper and Emma sharing the same mother but different fathers, or maybe they had the same father but different mothers. I'm not going to lie to you. That part I'm kind of drawing a blank on, but somebody correct me in the comment section if I got it right the first time or if I got it wrong. Just let me know. Now let's get to the better part. Let's get to the movies. Now, in the 6 movies, you had a total of 12 Ghostface killers. Now, technically, you can say 14, but 2 of them are not official. 2 of them are thinking of Jason and Greg from the 6th movie. They don't necessarily count. They were killed off in the beginning by other Ghostface. So here's the deal. So the 12 Ghostfaces in order were Billy Loomis, Stu Macher, Mickey Altieri, Nancy Loomis, Roman Bridger, Charlie Walker, Jill Roberts, Richie Kirsch, Amber Freeman, Wayne Bailey, Quinn Bailey, and Ethan Landry, whose name wasn't really Ethan Landry, it was Ethan Bailey. So that's the 12 ghost faces right there. Now, I gotta tell you, so Billy Loomis and Stu Macher were the 2 killers in the first movie. And I have to say that their reveals didn't necessarily surprise me because And this is the one mistake I think they made with the first movie, is that they kind of made it a little obvious at different points that they were the killer. Notice how every time somebody got killed, those two usually weren't in the room or were nowhere to be seen. Now, Billy Loomis, he kind of has this darkness to his personality. He wasn't really that sensitive to the fact that Sydney's mother, Maureen, got killed. And he was basically going out of his way to try to convince her that he wasn't a killer. Remember. And, of course, Randy said towards the end, this person is going a little crazy. And then he turns towards him and he gives that sinister look and he says, we all go a little crazy sometimes. And he shot him. I said, nah, there's a part of me that saw that coming. Stu Macher was a total idiot. He was a dummy. And, of course, he wasn't that good at really hiding the fact that something was going on with him. He was just too eccentric. He was just too out there. And, of course, they had a big party. Somebody gets killed. Of course, he's not to be seen either. So that gives me a clue right there. I said they kind of gave it away on that one. Scream 2, you had Mickey Altieri and Nancy Loomis. Now, I have to say that the Mickey one, I didn't predict that it was him. But at the same time, part of me wasn't that surprised by it. I don't know what it was exactly. I don't know what it was that a lot of people are saying, oh, they saw it was him, and then you could see it a mile away. I don't even remember off the top of my head the very first time I watched Scream 2. I couldn't even tell you what I thought at the time. And maybe there's just something about that I said, well, it could be him. It may not be him. I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been Derek, because Mickey made a good point. Says, hey, don't you know history repeats itself? Sydney's boyfriend was a killer in the first movie. That means that her boyfriend could be a killer in this movie. She dated Billy Loomis in the first one. Then she dates Derek Feldman in the second movie. It could have been very possible that he could have turned out to be a killer, but he didn't. Now, the Nancy Loomis one, that actually kind of surprised me because, one, she lied about her name. She said it was Debbie Salt. Remember that? And it turns out that she revealed herself at the end. Nancy Loomis, Sydney recognized her, the others didn't, and her, even though she's just as much of a criminal and she's as much of a serial killer as the rest of them are, at least her reasoning behind why she became a killer appeared to make more sense. She wanted to avenge her son. She wanted to avenge her son's death, so she said, hey, Sydney and Gail killed my son, so I'm here to kill them. Of course, she ends up getting killed just like every other Ghostface in the franchise. That one kind of surprised me a bit. Roman Bridger, I got to be honest with you. The first time I watched Scream 3, there were parts to it that I didn't pay that much attention to. It was kind of background noise to a degree. I give that movie an 8 out of 10. Every other Scream movie gets a 10. So, it was great, but the others were greater. So I didn't really make a prediction out of that one. I don't recall making a prediction on who I thought the killer would have been in that film. So, it just turned out to be Roman Bridger, and it is what it is. Scream 4, you had Charlie Walker and Jill Roberts. I wasn't that surprised that Charlie turned out to be a killer because there were things about him that were kind of strange, and there were certain clues to be given away, like I said, with Billy and Stu. A lot of times he wasn't in the room when Ghostface showed up. And the one scene where Ghostface showed up behind him when he was outside, that told me right there that there were two of them. He gets tied up outside. He's tied to the chair, mouth covered in duct tape, just like Stephen Orth from the first movie, who was Casey Becker's boyfriend. And then when he revealed himself, he stabbed Kirby, seemingly killing her. She actually ended up surviving. That didn't surprise me. The real shock for me came when Jill Roberts revealed herself. I remember being in theaters the first time watching it, and once she revealed herself, everybody in the theater basically said, wow. And that was the shock. Nobody thought it was her. She played the role so well, and she was good at hiding herself, unlike some of the others. Scream 5, you have Amber and Richie. Richie's reveal didn't surprise me that much for a couple reasons. One, remember, there was a scene in the hospital where Dewey and Sam went there to save Tara as she was being attacked by Ghostface. Dewey is fighting Ghostface, and after he shot Ghostface, by the way, was wearing a bulletproof vest. That's why he didn't die at the moment. You could tell the look that Richie was giving Ghostface, and then as they were pulling Richie away, that he looked back at Ghostface again. To me, that was a sign of, okay, they just shot my partner. Now, a lot of people may not have and I didn't pick that up at the very start, but people talked about that afterwards. And I said, in retrospect, it would make perfect sense that it'd be him. And then he hides in the closet later on. Fast forward sometime later, after everybody gathers at Stu Macher's house, and he is in the closet. Ghostface comes up and he's acting all shocked when the other Ghostface, Amber, already revealed herself. At the moment that she shot Liv, I thought that was a surprising moment because I didn't guess it was her. At first, there was reason to believe that it was Liv, but at the same time, anybody who watches a lot of horror films like this knows that when you have a particular character that's being suspected for a while, a lot of times it turns out to not be that person. I think Billy Loomis is the exception, but something told me that this may not be Liv. I just didn't pick that it was going to be Amber. So that one threw me off guard. And then, of course, Scream 6, I would say that the idea of Ethan being the killer, that alone doesn't surprise me. I think Wayne's reveal surprised me a little bit, but Quinn's is the one that surprised me the most. The big shock came out to be when it turns out that they were all family. They were related, and they were there to avenge Richie's death, which is a throwback to Scream 2, to when Nancy tried to avenge Billy's death. That was the big shock. So if I had to pick, so once we narrow it down, so I've already told you, so Billy and Stu didn't surprise me. Roman Bridger, not so much. Richie, not so much. Charlie, not so much. So to me, the most surprising Ghostface reveals come down to this. It comes down to Jill, Amber, and the Bailey family. This is kind of difficult for me to do. This is where it gets complex because, again, individually, Ethan by himself, that wasn't surprising. But as a family, and they were all in on this together, that was a shock that I'm sure nobody predicted. Nobody predicted. Jill, Amber, the Bailey family. Now, again, Quinn's reveal out the Bailey family was the most surprising to me. So let's take away Wayne and Ethan, and now we have 3. Now we have Jill, Amber, and Quinn. I really kind of want to say I'm leaning towards Jill on that one. It's almost a tie between Jill and Amber. I'm sorry, Jill and Quinn. Because, let's face it, a lot of us thought that Quinn was dead. Because Ghostface attacked Sam and her friends group when they were at the apartment, at the scene right before they tragically killed Annika. I think that she died too soon, by the way. I think they should have given her a survival pass in that movie and then probably allow her to, if they wanted to kill her off in the 7th movie, whatever. But I would say that it's a tie between Jill and Quinn. There's a part of me that kind of leans towards Jill in terms of my reaction to, which one shocked me the most as far as Ghostface reveals. But some of you said that you could tell, you could see it a mile away. I don't know how you were able to tell it was Jill. Some of the others, I can understand that. But I'm just putting this video out here because I want to ask the Scream fans, the other Scream fans, what do you think? Whose reveal would you say is the most shocking to you if you had to pick the top 3, I would say? And so if I had to pick one, if I had to narrow it down to one, I probably think the answer for me would be Jill. But if I was allowed to do top 3, I'd say Jill, Amber, Quinn. So, you all let me know, what do you think? Who was the most shocking Ghostface reveal to you? You tell me.